This is the Transfer Show, live and direct from the iconic Battersea Power Station in London. Yes, hi, great to have you on board. Yep, we're less than a week now from the deadline, which means there's a scramble on for some and egg on the faces for others. That is why we love the transfer window. To make sense of it all for us, Dharmesh Sheth and Kaveh Solokol. Coming up, key developments in Manchester United's pursuit of Patrick Dorgu. Paul Pogba has caused a stir on social media. We get the latest on his search for a new club. And John Duran could leave before Monday's deadline. We have the very latest on the Aston Villa striker. Yep, that is where we are, inside at Battersea. Wonderful space and so much to talk about inside. Right, let's get straight to it. We're going to start with Manchester United. We now got numbers on how much it will cost them to get a left wing back, which means I can say, how much is this Dorgu in this window?
Goodness me. I gave him that before the show.
You did?
He's claimed it. There was no laughter in here at all. So look, Patrick Dorgu, this one looks like it's getting really, really close now. United close to finalising a deal with Lecce to sign Patrick Dorgu. Many of the aspects of the deal, we're told, in the region of £30 million. I'm told it could actually come to less than £30 million. Many of the aspects of that deal have been agreed in principle. Positive talks have been continuing last week and today and yesterday. And it's just on the structure of that deal now, because before we were of the understanding it was around just under £30 million that had been rejected. But remember, when clubs do negotiate with each other, sometimes the total price can stay the same, but the actual structure of that deal can differ. So that's what United and Lecce have been discussing. Dorgu, we do know, wants to join Manchester United. He wants to go to Old Trafford and play under Ruben Amorim. Personal terms, not expected to be a problem. It's starting to look like when and not if Dorgu is going to become a Manchester United player. Kaveh.
Well, I think we have to wait and see how good Patrick Dorgu is. I think the jury is out on some of the signings United have made from the Italian league. They've bought players from Bologna, Atalanta. Now they're signing somebody from Lecce. Having said that, this guy, if he arrives, he will come with a very, very good reputation. I think he was the Danish Player of the Year or the Danish Young Player of the Year a couple of years ago. He is an emerging talent, and he is somebody who plays in a position that United need to strengthen.
Well, he's played in all sorts of positions. He's played everywhere.
Well, he can predominantly play as a left wing back, which is the first area that Ruben Amorim wants to address. United have had all sorts of problems in that position, especially with injuries. And obviously Ruben Amorim has said, this is an area I need strengthening ASAP. We know the financial situation at United. If players are going to come in, players are going to have to leave. And I think at the moment there are big question marks over the future of Alejandro Garnacho. I think United want around £60 million for him. Maybe as we get closer to the deadline, they may be willing to accept something like 50 million for him. Our colleagues at Sky in Italy today saying that Napoli have resumed talks to try and sign him. And I think if the price is right, United will let him go. I think one thing that could be crucial in this deal potentially happening is the role played by Antonio Conte. You know Antonio Conte, what kind of manager he is, the kind of pressure that he puts on the people above him to strengthen his squad. And I think Napoli have raised a lot of money from outgoings this window. He's putting pressure on the president of Napoli, saying, I want Alejandro Garnacho. And I think, according to our colleagues at Sky Italy, that is looking more likely today because talks have resumed.
So Garnacho could go. What about Casemiro? Is he on the way out?
Well, I think he's another player that United, if we're being honest, would like him to move on because of his wages. You have to say that his move hasn't worked out from Real Madrid. He arrived for £70 million in the summer of 2022. He came with an incredible reputation because of everything he'd achieved at Real Madrid. But most neutral observers would say it looks like his best days are behind him. and he's on big money at United. Sky Italy saying that Roma have asked to be kept in the loop about developments regarding his future. They may potentially be looking for a defensive midfielder because Leandro Paredes could be moving to Boca Juniors.
Yesterday, Carve was bullish about Marcus Rashford. He said he will get a new club before the deadline.
Did I?
Bullish.
Bullish.
Today, tell him why that's become a little bit less likely.
It's not so much less likely because one of the clubs that have said that they're not interested in him, we actually weren't reporting it ourselves because there was a lot of rumours about Fenerbahce potentially interested in Marcus Rashford. But the whole City owner, who happens to be the vice president at Fenerbahce, Akun Ilakali, he's actually on Sky Sports News this morning and he was answering questions about Rashford and these rumours and reports linking Fenerbahce with Rashford. He says, of course there were some rumours, but I can say very comfortably that we are not interested, but he is a good player. But make no mistake about it, we've only got 6 days left of this transfer window. Time is running out for Marcus Rashford to get a move in this transfer window. He continues to train, though, with Manchester United's first-team squad. And look, I was at the game on Sunday when Ruben Amorim made all of those headlines after that 1-0 victory over Fulham. There was lots of talk about Garnacho, but we all know what he said about Marcus Rashford. He also was asked the question, what happens if Marcus Rashford is still at Manchester United when it gets to 11 o'clock on Monday, February the 3rd? He said he will be used, Marcus Rashford, at Manchester United, provided he shows the maximum in training and does the right things. So he's basically intimating that at the moment, he doesn't feel Marcus Rashford is showing the maximum in training and doing the right things. But he says that goes for every single player in the squad.
Sure.
So he says Rashford, as far as we know at the moment, no move. He wants Barcelona, but they've got their own financial issues to try and get enough salary space to be able to afford to bring Marcus Rashford into the club.
Still confident he'll be gone by the end of the window?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I was bullish yesterday.
You were bullish.
No, yesterday I said that he's still got 3.5 years left on his contract. So if he didn't get a move, United would have to carry on paying him his substantial wages. The point I would make today is, and I don't want to put Darmish on the spot, so I'm not going to ask him the question.
No, go on.
But no, I don't want to put him on the spot. But I'm just thinking, is there a chance that if Marcus Rashford is still a Manchester United player on deadline day, that a big Premier League club comes in for him on deadline day?
I mean, look, anything is possible. But the issue that...
Would United let him go to one of their...
That is a big question, but it also... Are another Premier League club going to pay the full wages of Marcus Rashford? And would Manchester United be comfortable subsidising another Premier League club with these wages?
What is Premier League clubs that can afford to do it, though,
yeah, but what is...
But if Amorim says, I'd rather have my 63-year-old goalkeeping coach on the bench than Marcus Rashford, surely you'd let him go.
What is clear is Marcus Rashford has to play for the rest of this season. He hasn't featured in hardly any of Ruben Amorim's squads since December. I think he featured in one against Newcastle, and he didn't come off the bench. He was an unused substitute then. He hasn't featured in any of the squads since then because of what he was saying after the Fulham game, not showing maximum in training and questioning his lifestyle choices as well. But they need him to play. Ideal scenario, he goes away into a European club for the rest of the season on a straight loan. He plays brilliantly, he plays every week, he scores lots of goals, he comes back to Manchester United with increased market value. Failing that, there has to be some sort of reintegration process, you would think, with United to get him back into the first team squad, knocking on the door of the first team so he's playing again. Because if Ruben Amorim has decided, for example, I'm not putting words in his mouth, but if he has decided Marcus Rashford is not in his plans long term, he needs to play somewhere, be it at United or abroad, for the rest of this season.
All right, yeah. I shall ask you again tomorrow. Paul Pogba caused a bit of a stir today, didn't he? In his Instagram post, he showed a picture of him with Ahmed Diallo saying, you never know what can happen. Is he going back to United?
I think he was teasing a little bit, but the information that I've got today is that his representatives have been approached by a number of clubs in Europe, in the Premier League, the MLS, in Saudi Arabia as well. However, his focus is simply on getting fit, and I think a decision on his next club is likely to be made closer to when he's available to play.
Okay.
So he's available to play in March. He can start training again now, but he's available to play in March. He had that 4-year ban for a positive drugs test, which was reduced to 18 months. And you mentioned about the social media posts. I think we can see it now. This is how he teased the fans by posting a cartoon picture of him alongside the Manchester United forward Ahmed Diallo yesterday. So with a bit of a laughing emoji there. He also shared another picture, and this was him looking out in reflective mood by the looks of it. And the caption read, "Let's see what's coming." Now, he hasn't played since September 2023, left Juventus by mutual agreement back then. So I think come March, or close to March, when he makes his return, we'll have a better idea of where he's going to be playing.
Okay.
That didn't look like Manchester, that picture.
No. Someone was saying Salford Keys, but I think it was
Don't
someone
think
else.
so. Let's talk Villa. Interested in a couple of Chelsea players. Tell us more.
I think Villa have got some interest in Axel Disasi, the Chelsea centre-back, and also potentially João Felix, the Chelsea forward. I think the situation with Disasi is a little bit clearer. Aston Villa have got injury problems in the centre-back positions at the moment. They also sold Diego Carlos. They have been linked with other centre-backs as well, like Juan Foyth, who's playing in Spain at the moment. The situation at Chelsea is Chelsea don't really want to sell any players this window, but if they do sell somebody like Disasi, they would be looking to bring in other players. Having said that, I don't think they'll be moving for any defenders this month. Trevor Chalobah has come back from loan at Crystal Palace, so that position is well covered. As for João Felix, I think his agent is Jorge Mendes, one of the biggest agents in world football. Felix has obviously moved for big money during the summer from Atletico Madrid. He hasn't been playing enough. I think he wants to play more, and it's been well documented that Unai Emery, the Villa manager, is a big fan. So I think that's where that story comes from. Staying at Aston Villa as well, the future of Jean Duran.
Yeah.
I've seen some more reports saying potentially is he a player who Chelsea could move for, because Chelsea could potentially be looking for an out-and-out number 9. I think there has been some interest from Chelsea in Duran previously, especially last summer. But I think at the moment Aston Villa are saying the player is not for sale. We've had bids from West Ham, interest from Al Nassr, and I think because of his reputation now, you would be looking at a transfer fee of something like £80 million, and I can't see Chelsea spending that kind of money this month.
The issue that Aston Villa have got, though, they've got Ollie Watkins and they've got John Duran, and they play one striker. Both of them want to play. And he has swapped both Watkins and Duran during this season. There's going to come a point where, maybe not in this transfer window, unless an unbelievable bid comes in, like the one Carve mentioned there, upwards of 70, 80 million pounds, that may turn Aston Villa's head. But come the summer, they may have to make a decision. And now which player is going to go? Because you've got Ollie Watkins, who's 29 years old. You've got John Duran, who's 20. But you've got Watkins, who's established himself in the Premier League. John Duran, who's just coming up now and trying to make progress and develop as a Premier League player, but has still scored a whole heap of goals for Aston Villa this season. But they're not going to be satisfied if they're the ones who's going to be sitting on the bench. So something might come to a head, or might have to come to a head come the summer. It'd be interesting to see which way Villa go.
But if I was Aston Villa, I'd want to keep both of them because of the number of competitions they're involved in, the Champions League. Not one of those players is going to play every single game. I think you need both of them, and they're both exceptional players. But I see what you're saying.
Yeah. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, they lost the Ballon d'Or winner, and the ballons burst for the champions. We've got Pep coming up on how he's going to replace Rodri, and Evan Ferguson is a striker in demand. We'll tell you where he could go next. See you in a moment. Now we're going to talk David Coot, who has taken full responsibility and apologised for his actions in his first interview after being sacked by the PGMOL. He's also revealed he'd hidden his sexuality for a number of years for fear of abuse as a gay man. The full interview is available on the Sun website and the Sun's YouTube channel.
I think the first thing that I want to do is apologise to anybody who I've offended by my actions. I recognise that they fell well short of standards that are expected of a top-level referee, and I deeply regret saying what I said, and tell from the video I clearly wasn't sober. I deeply regret that I found myself in that position and making the comments that I made that aren't reflective of either my views, of any of the individuals concerned, or my wider views.
Yes, we'll have more on that interview on Sports Centre at 5:30, right after us, and we'll discuss Coot's comments and the rise of abuse at referees at 6 o'clock right here on the Transfer Show. Right, we've got to talk Manchester City now. They lost Rodri. What does Pep think about replacing him? Here he is.
Every position is important. They perform well, and of course, we have replaced this time already with the two players. They are not proper holding midfielders for many reasons. But we'll see in the future what they have to do.
Financially, this club's always had the money in recent years from getting to Champions League quarter-finals, semi-finals, final. If you do go out, could that affect transfer budgets, things like that?
I don't know. I didn't speak with my CEO about that. In the last years, I'd say 5-6 years, in the Spain net have been amazing, this club. So in the club said, okay, the situation is the situation, we're going to deal with that. So we can spend, we spend, we cannot spend, we're going to spend.
Been busy, Manchester City. Are they going to get a midfielder in before the deadline?
I think there's a possibility. I'm not sure they're going to go all out to try and bring in a defensive midfielder. I know a lot of City fans, especially those who tend to be more vocal on social media, have been saying, why haven't we signed a replacement for Rodri? We've signed some really good players in other positions, but we need another defensive midfielder. I think one player that they have held talks about signing is Douglas Luiz. I'm not, by talks, I don't mean there's been like official negotiations, but I think there has been a level of interest in him. He's obviously a fantastic player, moved to Juventus for big money, 50 million euros.
Was at City.
Was at City before. I think if a player like him is available on loan, then you have a look at him. I think the problem is that Juventus are asking for a loan plus an obligation to buy, and they're asking for quite a big financial commitment from the club who takes him. But that is a possibility. But I get the feeling that Pep would be perfectly happy if City's business was already done.
Should he be happy? Surely they need a midfielder.
Yeah, I mean, they've gone into the market big time this time. I read a stat somewhere that the amount that City have spent in this transfer window is more than all the Premier League clubs put together in last January's transfer window. So it's like around 120 million pounds, which is unprecedented for Manchester City. But it's clear that the rebuild has started now. They do need a midfielder. They do want to go into the market for a midfielder. They've managed to do good business so far in this transfer window, especially with the Marmoush deal, because that was illustrating how difficult it is to do a deal in a January transfer window for a successful player at a club like Eintracht Frankfurt, who are going for Champions League football. They might find that to be the difficulty when they try and go for a blue chip midfielder, if you like, in this transfer window. I think there was talk of Edison from Atlanta, but that would be difficult to do in January.
To be fair to City, I know they've spent big money this window, but actually last summer they spent less money than League One Birmingham City in the transfer market. And over the past few windows, their net spend has not been as much as some of their big rivals. So I think we should sort of put into perspective why they're spending the kind of money they're spending now. And of course, their turnover is so big. I think only Real Madrid have a bigger turnover than they do, so they have more money to spend when it comes to transfer fees and wages.
Okay, I want to race through a couple more names. Evan Ferguson, who's interested?
This could be something that really develops in the next week, because yesterday we told you that Brighton were probably open to loan offers. Today we can tell you they're now open to permanent offers for Evan Ferguson. The likelihood is that if a club does come in for him, it would be a loan. We're told that Bayer Leverkusen appear to be the front runners now to try and sign Evan Ferguson from Brighton. West Ham United have made inquiries. You can see the link. Graham Potter managed him at Brighton, gave him his debut at Brighton. There are a few other Premier League clubs interested in Evan Ferguson as well. And an interesting one, which we should have put 2 and 2 together and know that this was going to be a link, is Marseille. Roberto De Zerbi, the manager there, managed him at Brighton as well. Definitely one to look out for in the next 6 days.
20 seconds. Neymar. Is he back in Brazil now?
Well, we've just had an update from the Santos president, Marcelo Teixeira, and he's got a long statement on social media, but basically he says, "The moment has come, Neymar. The Santos nation awaits you with open arms." So I think he's on his way back.
That's pretty unequivocal. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much for the moment. Dharmesh and Kaveh are back at 6 o'clock in Sports Centre at 5:30. More from that David Coot interview. As I say, we are back at 6. We've got a live studio audience. They're in here already. There's loads of them. They're coming up. We've got, who's it? Alan Pardew is coming up as well. Nearly forgot. The former Newcastle and West Ham manager. That and much, much